Welcome back to season 5 of Time to Change. I'm Chasen Forehand.
And I'm Dom Jones. We have some amazing conversations lined up from people doing the work. I'm excited for those and the change that it'll hopefully spark.
I can't wait to jump in. So let's get started.
Shall we?
Today, oh, what a treat. I brought my friend in the house today. I have a lot of friends. This is an amazing human being. Kathy Love, you may know her as Kathy Lecky. Kathy Love, it's all Kathy L. She is fantastic. She is a VP at Something New LLC. That is a talent company founded by Scott McGregor and crew. And she is the Chief Community Officer for the Outlier Project, which I've been part of since May of 2022, back in the TCC days, for those of you that have been around. And she is a speaker. She is a coach. She's a mom. She's an incredible human being. She is my friend, and she is the author of My Self-Care.
What'd you say? I couldn't hear you.
YouTube gets a little mad when you know. So scan that QR code right above Dom's left shoulder. Show them, Vanna. There we go. That QR code will take you right to her book. Joe and I, if you haven't seen my posts, Joe and I both have a copy. I keep my pencil. I keep my number 2 pencil in here because I work on this on a daily basis. I'll erase stuff. I'll come back to it. And we will get to talk about that. But Kathy Love is in the house. So glad to have you here. Appreciate you. So,
well, my favorite part of that intro is that we're friends. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, we are still waiting to get together. I know we keep threatening each other, and our schedules are just nuts.
It's only been a year we've been trying. It's just been 1 year, so
it's all good. It's all good. The first thing I would love to ask is, you know what? I have seen your TED Talk. I've heard you speak in other different shows. I know you from the Outlier Project. We've had, I don't know how many conversations. What made you get to a place where you felt like, not only do I want to write this book, and this may be like a 2-part question. What made me want to write this book and help other people, but also what made me want to be a self-care coach?
They are, parts of the same answer. So after my TEDx, that was about 10 years ago now, I have gone through a ton of self-discovery, learning about my thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, and how they were impacting my decisions in life and the outcomes that I was getting. It was most evident to me through my relationships. And so about 5 years ago, after what was a really, really tough relationship breakup, I started to really dive into this. And the book was, so when I started to look for help, the answer was always practice more self-care. And I didn't know what self-care meant. To me, that was, going to the gym or getting a massage or going to a yoga class, whatever that was. But I didn't have the time because I was a single mom to 3 kids and I didn't have an extra dollar. So those options weren't really there for me. So other than that, I didn't know what it was. So I started to Google it, like, how do you self-care? As it was a verb, because I just didn't know what it meant. And it would say, well, spend more time by yourself. And that was the absolute last thing I ever wanted to do because I had no idea what I would do with myself. And I would do anything to distract myself from being alone. I would call people or go somewhere. I would never, ever sit home alone. In comparison to last week when I took off for International Self-Care Day and I didn't have enough time in the day to spend by myself. But so one of the things was, one of the parts of self-care was to do more things that made me happy. I had no idea what made me happy. I knew what made my kids happy. I knew what made, everybody else around me happy. So I started to take notes. And at first they were on my phone. I had little sticky notes on my desk that would say, what do you want? What do you need? Because I was never asking myself those questions. So the notes were just in my phone for me, so that if I had an extra hour, I could look at it, and I would have 40 things on there, and I'd say, walk the dog. Nope, I don't want to. Like, I'd be in a mood. So I'd have to get to like maybe the 10th thing, and I'd go, okay, I'm willing to do that. But at least I had the options there, because otherwise I was lost. So after I had been doing that healing, I was friends with a therapist who had watched me go through that whole process. And he asked me if I would coach a group of his clients on healing from codependency through self-care. So that's how the official coaching got started. But I was an elementary school teacher. I've always been like a teacher at heart. I knew when I was going through my stuff, it had to be able to help other people. That's what kept me going. And so when I started coaching these people, I would say, well, start making a list of things that make you happy. Make a list of the movies that you want to watch. Make a list of the restaurants you want to go to. And so the list from my phone turned into that book.
Wow.
I love that. I was reading part of it to Dom before you came on, and telling him, how I work it. Jody works it a little differently than I do. I work it into my daily. She works it into her weekly routine. And, however you could tell by mine and all the eraser marks and my number 2 pencil in there that I appreciate how it's structured. So
pencil's a great idea, because our answers change all the time.
That's true. And that's exactly what I said, isn't it, Dom?
It is. It is just an indicator that we evolve and change as we go through seasons and things as human beings. I have possibly a silly question, but I think it warrants a little bit of discussion. So, Kathy, since you've done a lot of the internal work of figuring out what self-care looks like for you and have helped others navigate, what have you found are the benefits of self-care in terms of how we show up as humans, as relationship partners, as leaders? What does that look like on the other side?
It looks totally different, and I can still see the other side, which is so fascinating to me. And it's my favorite place to be, is I can see what my past reactions or thoughts would have, might have been. And then I can see how I'm handling things today. So for instance, at work, I have learned over the past 5 years to speak up, to answer questions, to raise my hand, to think that I had something worth saying.
Ooh.
I always deferred to other people as knowing more than I did, being more important. I gave up that space. And so that was one thing Scott McGregor, who I work with at the Outlier Project, who founded it, that's one of the most important things that he's taught me, is to share. Now you can tell I'm at no loss for words, but that's a new thing for me. I've always been a talker, but not in certain situations where I didn't feel like I was worth it. So that's one thing. But my relationships with my kids have changed, and my ability to say, I know all the places that I screwed up, and I'm happy to talk to you about those anytime without defensiveness or trying to fix it or change it. I had my first romantic relationship that I was able to navigate in a healthier way than I ever had before. And we had a very healthy breakup, which isn't normally looked back on as a good thing, but it was absolutely it was a beautiful experience. My relationship with my parents has changed. There's no blame. There's no shame. There's no I guess blaming them for, the way I am or things like that. So it really has changed my relationship with everything, including food, money, things that are not people related.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. Yeah.
We could have made this like another like 2 or 3 episode kind of show too.
There's so much to unpack with this topic, and a little bit of
It's so
therapy too.
good.
Like, so I'll try to not turn it
Yeah,
into that.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna send you a copy of this book.
All right.
One of the cool things that I love is how you approach talking about this, not only personally in this kind of forum, but what you talk about in the book and how you talk on other people's shows as well about your journey. What would you say to somebody who is just beginning this journey? Like, what would you say? Like, there's that person that, as you said, you could see both sides and where you were and where you are now. What would you say to the person who's like, I'm ready to start this, and I'm ready to start this journey, and what encouragement would you give them, or what would you say to them?
Yeah, I just took a deep breath because there's so much I would say to them. The first one is that there is hope. A lot of people lose hope that there is a possibility for change, or, I've been this way all my life, and how could I possibly make real change in my life? But when we use self-care as the vehicle to healing, it works on everything at one time. So we don't have to learn 100 new thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. We can just focus on self-care, and that will take care of everything at the same time. I just have so many things to say. So it's hope, it is realizing that things come in phases and they pass. So if it means moving to a place that you don't love, that's like a temporary, that could be a temporary thing. We tend to look at decisions that we have to make that are difficult as permanent. This is the way it's always going to be now. And remembering that everything is temporary really helped me a lot.
That's those two alone, even if we stop right there, those two alone are huge. They're huge.
It is.
Yeah, go ahead, Dom. I don't want to capitalize the time period.
I had a bad joke. I was just gonna say that's why Chasen walks around with a number 2 pencil instead of a pen.
Yeah,
because things change, and you've got to be ready to.
That's right.
I have a whole pile of them, buddy.
Yeah, and I think focusing on breathing, learning some breathing. So the self-care that I teach is always accessible, affordable, easy, or simple. I always say it's simple but not easy. It's not easy to remember to take a breath, but it's simple to breathe. So just knowing that there are these every day, we're not talking about once a month or once a year getting a massage, but every single day using your breath, being aware of how you're talking to yourself. That self-talk is so important, so your mindset, but taking care of just starting with your body, making sure that you're eating healthy foods, drinking water, sleeping, and moving for 10 minutes. I mean, there were times when those 4 things were almost impossible for me to do in a day. So like really just going back to when you're really in it, it's just going back to the basics.
Yeah. What comes to mind in what you're saying, for context, I concluded not long ago a leadership accelerator that I was leading with a group of recently promoted leaders, millennials. They're in their late 30s, early 40s. And the topic that we were discussing was around health and wellness and your habits as a leader. Out of a 5-week program, when we started talking about that topic, it was a time where I saw the burdens the most visible to them as leaders. I mean, to the point of tears, even on our group call. And we were talking about this sentiment where they felt like they always had to be on as leaders. They couldn't turn off. They felt burnout, but the demands were so high and they felt like they just couldn't say no or set boundaries. That said, I'd love to shift and talk about the workplace for just a second, especially leaders, but even if you're not like a leader by title, this is a very dynamic time in workplaces where there's so much pressure, so much demand, all of the challenges of life are brought into the workplace. Can you talk a little bit about what it looks like practically to practice self-care in the midst of having to lead or walk through a pressurized situation in a workplace? What does it look like?
So it's all, to simply put it, it's the same. So some people may show the need for more self-care in the workplace. Some might be in relationships, some might be with money, whatever it is, right? And so in the workplace, it's exactly what you just said. It's setting boundaries, but you can't set boundaries and enforce them unless you believe that you are worthy of that expectation that you're setting, that you can trust yourself, that to make good decisions that are for you, that you can let go of the backlash you might get from other people who might say that you're selfish or lazy or, a bad person, whatever it is that we're afraid of. And usually we don't set boundaries because we're afraid of something. And so healthy boundaries, yes. Most lately, I've been working with nurses who are leaders on the, in the hospital, and they are doing the same thing. It's causing burnout. They're taking on more responsibilities, like in the workplace. Taking on more responsibility than is yours is a recipe for burnout. And that's where self-care comes in. To know, first of all, you need to know yourself so well. You need to know, what are your limits? What are you willing to do and what are you not? Why are you taking on extra work? Is it because you want the accolades? You want to be looked upon as the best in the office? You want somebody's approval? Everything that self-care does, it takes away the focus from the outside and puts it back on you.
Yeah. And it would almost seem like that's being selfish.
Exactly. That's why yes.
What
And so when you, I always equate it to a young child. There's no one out there who's listening that wouldn't do anything to save a young child in distress or, to protect a child from anything. But when we can feel like that about ourselves is when we're really practicing self-care. But we act like we're worth it. We act like we're valuable. We act like, we mean something. And it's not based on achievement. We don't tell a kid that they need to do something in particular to set boundaries and protect them. We do it because they're just a human.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's good.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
How much, where do I send the bill for this therapy session, Kathy?
Oh, Dom, we've just gotten started.
Oh,
Just give me your credit card number. This is going to take a while.
Got you. Got you.
Oh my goodness. We've just been scratching the surface talking about
it is.
self-care.
It really is.
Yeah.
But you need to get a copy of this book. Let me get it into focus here. It's above Dom's shoulder. And I can't say the name of it because YouTube will kick me off the platform. But scan that QR code and get yourself a copy. My wife and I have one. I'm going to send one to Dom. He doesn't know it yet, but he needs one. And hey, with all of those kids and homeschooling, you need that, brother.
I'll take 2 copies. Thanks.
Right? You and your wife. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This has been amazing. And we've just started scratching the surface, but you need to connect with Kathy Love on LinkedIn, Kathy Leckie in my heart. And I cannot thank you enough for being here and being on the show with us, Kathy. You are an amazing human being. Joe and I love you so much and appreciate you. So thank you for being here
I
on
love
the
you
show.
guys.
Thank you for telling parts of your story and why this is important to you.
Thank you
This
for having
has
me.
been Time to Change. I'm Chasen Forehand,
And I'm Dom Jones.
and we will catch you next time.